Hey everybody, it's Tim the Tone Priest coming at you from the Tone Church.
Whoa, wait a minute. It's okay. I'm here to help.
Check out the new gear. Pretty sweet, right? I sort of made this design. I kind of modified, modified a couple of things here to make this design here. We have Jessica Rabbit, sort of like World War II vintage bomber aircraft nose art, and the original picture had her riding a bomb, but I replaced the bomb with a sweet RCA 6L6. Pretty cool, right? Yeah, if you want one, you know where to go. Anyway, I thought I'd do a quick little video today. Hey, look, it's the Tone Pet. Say hi, YouTube. Hi, YouTube. How you doing? Oh, don't show your face. You want to remain incognito. Alright, go molest your toy frog. Anywho, your eyes are not deceiving yourself. I have had a wardrobe change. It's a new day. I recorded a version of this video yesterday, and it was an abomination. So I decided to re-record it. I'm going to keep some of the old footage and put in the meat and potatoes. I'm going to re-record that. Hopefully, take two will be a little bit better. But anyway, what were we talking about? Oh yeah, power supplies. So I ordered a Lexicon MX200 from Guitar Center, and I received it a couple days ago. And this is the power supply they sent me. And if you read the manufacturer on there, it was a red flag right away that something may be fishy. The manufacturer's name is Hong Kwang, or in another accent, Hong Kwang.
We are far from home.
But I looked at the information on the transformer itself, and this is a DC 12 volt center positive power transformer. And then I looked at the back of my my new old stock Lexicon, and if this will not get washed out, hold on, let's try this. The lighting engineer took the day off. This on the back of the Lexicon, where this power supply plugs in, says 9V and has this squiggly line. So, were I to plug that power supply into the back of my new Lexicon, it's a good chance it might blow it up. So I called Guitar Center helpline and said, "Hey guys, you sent me the wrong power supply." And speaking with the very nice gentleman, very helpful. I forget his name. I wish I remembered it, but he knows who he is. He was super cool. But talking to him, telling him what I needed, it was obvious that, you know, there are gaps in people's knowledge about power supplies and AC and DC and all that stuff, and what is appropriate and what is not.
Who's in charge of engineering?
My friend, his name is Reginald.
So that's what we're going to talk about today. It's pretty basic stuff, so I'm almost semi, confident that I can help out in this situation. So, when talking about electricity, and we've got some visual aids here, I made up Uncle Doug style. There's two types of voltage you can get. You can have alternating current, or you can have direct current. And I made a couple of charts here, if you can read that. The x-axis is time, the y-axis is your voltage. So when you plug in a DC power supply, and if you were to look at it on an oscilloscope, you just have a solid line over time of 12 or whatever, 9 volts of DC voltage. Alternating current, you have positive and then negative voltage over time. And in the United States, we have 60 hertz or 60 cycles per second, so each gradation would be 1/60th of a second, right? Does that make sense? So, very important that you don't plug a DC power supply into a piece of gear that is looking for AC and vice versa. Now, that's the first thing you need to know. So how do you know what you need? So hopefully on the back of your component, it'll say, or in the instruction manual, it'll say, 9 volts AC or 9 volts DC. Now, it's important to know that's the output of the transformer. It may say like 120 volts AC / 9 volt DC. That's 120 volts that's taken from the wall, like here in America, and it's transforming it into 9 volts AC or DC. On the back of the lexicon, again, it just said 9V squiggly line. So if that's the case, it'll either have this symbol here, which is a line with a bunch of dashes above it, that indicates DC, or the squiggly line, like on the back of the lexicon, that is AC. So we're off by 2 counts here. We have a 12 volt DC power supply, and the lexicon is looking for 9 volts of AC. Another thing to know about DC power supplies, if you look at the plug here, it's like a tube, a hollow tube. Well, yeah, I guess all tubes are hollow.
That's what she... A lot of places are like that.
But there's an outside and an inside, or a center and an outside, however you want to call it. We've all seen these things on our effects pedals and on our power supplies. It can either be center negative or center positive. So, for example, center negative, that means the outside shell of the tube is like on a battery, you have plus and minus. The outside shell on a center negative is your positive, and then on the inside, they're not connected. The inside that actually connects to that little tubes, that little thing, I don't know what do you want to call it, that little pin on the inside of the jack, that would be negative. Now, thanks to Boss, way back in the day when they were starting to make effects pedals, just about, I don't know, 99%, whatever, a very high percentage of your effects pedals will be center negative. Why they chose to do that, I have no idea. I think if you ask 100 engineers today what would be more appropriate, center positive or center negative, they'd tell you, center positive, but whatever.
Think I can meet him?
He is Reginald.
Boss started the trend and now we're stuck with it. Regardless, 99% of your effects pedals and gear is going to be center negative. But I have seen some very expensive and popular effects pedals that is center positive. And you do not want to mix the two up. You want to make sure you have the correct one.
We look for things.
So I've heard.
I just recently bought I think it was a Kaleen pedal power supply. And they have little cables that will actually swap the polarity for you if that's what you need.
Can you make our ship go?
So again, be careful with those cables. Don't you want to make sure everything's kosher there.
We look for things to make us go.
Does that all make sense? Everybody with me? And then finally, we have on the back of a power supply is going to be a current rating. You're not going to be able to see this, but this one says 0.8A. What that means is this is a 0.8 amps power supply. Now, a lot of misconceptions people have. They see that I'm going to call it 800 milliamps because it's easier to say. 800 milliamp power supply. People think, oh, this power supply is going to push out 800 milliamps when you plug it into something. That's not what that means. What happens is when you are giving, let's say, the lexicon, we're giving it 9 volts, all the circuitry inside, when it's all working correctly, is going to run at a certain amount of current. A certain amount of current is going to go through the system. And you need to have a power supply that is capable of outputting that current. Now, let's say, just hypothetically, the lexicon wanted 1.3 amps or 1,300 milliamps of current. That's how much it's going to use. This 800 milliamp power supply would not be sufficient. And I think good analogy to use is, let's say you have a 100 watt Marshall amplifier, and you plug it into a 25 watt, speaker. Obviously, that's too much power for that speaker. You need a speaker that can handle more power. And same thing here. This is not how much this is pushing out. This is how much it can handle. And that's all based on the current draw of your component you're plugging into. Does that all make sense? So again, real quickly.
Fellas, why don't you just show me where your guidance system is, okay? Excuse me.
There are 4 things you need to know. Well, 3.5, we'll say. 3.5 things you need to know when you're buying a power supply for an effects pedal or a piece of rack gear. Does your component want AC or DC voltage? How much voltage does it want? If it wants DC voltage, is it center positive or center negative? And then how much current draw does your piece of gear use? And make sure you buy a power supply that is capable of putting that out. And there you have it. I think that was a lot more coherent than yesterday's video. So I think at this point we'll probably see the new gear. But here's the old gear. This is the original gear right here. RCA, baby. So hopefully that's helpful. Hopefully, you don't want to blow up your nice new Wazacraft. So any questions, leave them in the bottom and I'll try to answer them or direct you to where you can go to get properly educated on that.
He is smart.
But all right, that's all I got for now. Hopefully this weekend we'll get into part 4 of the Quest for the Holy Grail, or maybe a sweet cover recording from Grim Death and 7 Semis. But until then. Stay hot.
Warp drive, Mr. Scott.